I'm also thinking about all of the young people, particularly girls and girls of color, who in years ahead will come to this place and they will look up and they will see an image of someone who looks like them hanging on the wall of this great American institution. Yeah. And I know the kind of impact that will have on their lives because I was one of those girls. And when I think about those future generations and generations past, I think again, wow, what an incredible journey we are on together in this country. We have come so far. And yes, as we see today, we still have a lot more work to do. But we have every reason to be hopeful and proud. And I am truly grateful to have had the opportunity to stand alongside my husband and play a very small part in that history and in that future. But I'm even more proud of the extraordinary woman and artist who made this portrait possible. Amy Sherrill. Not yet. I got more to say about you, girl. Now, Barack and I had the privilege of considering a number of outstanding portraitists, and I want to thank Bill Allman, Thelma Golden, Michael Smith, our team. We love you guys. I know you're out there, who guided us every step of the way. Oh, there you go. Of course, I could see you guys, but thank you. They guided us through every step of the way through this process. We never could have done this without you because you not only know your craft and all these folks, but you know us intimately. You knew what we were looking for and what we wanted to say. So thank you three, the dynamic trio. And with their help, we narrowed down the field to a few key artists who Barack and I then interviewed. And each of these artists had to walk into the Oval Office. Yikes. And I almost wanted to start off each conversation by apologizing for putting them through this process. I mean, just to get this job, they had to come to the White House, to the Oval Office, and get grilled by the President and First Lady. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So it wasn't lost on us how unnerving this experience was for each and every one of them. And when Amy came in, and it was her turn, I have to admit that I was intrigued. I was intrigued before she walked into the room. I'd seen her work, and I was blown away by the boldness of her colors and the uniqueness of her subject matter. So I was wondering, who is this woman? And she's so cute, too. And then she walked in, and she was fly and poised, and I just wanted to stare at her for a minute. She had this lightness and freshness of personality. She was hip and cool in that totally expected, unexpected kind of way. And within the first few sentences of our conversation, I knew she was the one for me. And maybe it was the moment she came in and she looked at Barack and she said, well, Mr. President, I'm really excited to be here, and I know I'm being considered for both portraits. She said, but Mrs. Obama, she physically turned to me and she said, I'm really hoping that you and I can work together. And after that, she and we started talking, and Barack kind of faded into the woodwork. And, you know, there was an instant connection, that kind of sister-girl connection that I had with this woman. And that was true all the way through the process, which is a good thing, because when someone is doing your portrait, they spend hours staring at you. Yikes. It's very intimate, the experience, so you really have to trust the person and feel comfortable enough to let yourself go. And Amy made that possible for me. We had that connection. So today I want to thank Amy for being willing to put herself through this process. especially after it was leaked. I just felt for you, girl. You know, to have to do that, right? To paint a portrait of Michelle and Barack Obama is like cooking Thanksgiving dinner for strangers. Everybody has an idea of what Thanksgiving dinner is supposed to taste like. The dressing that you love is the dressing you love. You don't want other stuff in it. And that's what it's like. People know what they feel and think and how they see us. So Amy had to interpret that and do it under the spotlight. So I can only imagine that it's been a little stressful for her, but she has handled it with all with remarkable poise and grace, which I think tells you a lot about who she is. She is obviously a woman of extraordinary talent, and it is thrilling to see her getting the recognition she deserves with all the awards and the calls from museums and buyers lining up to purchase her work. But even more important, Amy is a woman of extraordinary character and strength. Her path has been strewn with obstacle after obstacle. She's faced life-threatening medical conditions of her own. She's made tremendous sacrifices to care for the people she loves. She's endured the heartbreak of losing some of those that she's loved, and all through it, she kept going. All along, she stayed faithful to her gifts. She refused to give up on what she had to offer to the world. And as a result, she is well on her way to distinguishing herself as one of the great artists of her generation. It was a total joy. It was a total joy to work with you, Amy. I am so pleased and honored and proud of you. So it is my honor to introduce Amy to all of you today, the woman who created this beautiful portrait, Amy Sherald.
Good morning. Thanks for being here so early. Mrs. Obama, I want to begin by saying thank you. Thank you for seeing my vision, and thank you for being a part of my vision. I paint American people, and I tell American stories through the paintings I create.
All right, again, that is the scene right now at the National Portrait Gallery. That's one of the Smithsonian museums in Washington. You just heard from the former First Lady, Michelle Obama, right now at the podium. That is the artist Amy Sherald. She painted that portrait, that official portrait that will hang now in the National Portrait Gallery of Michelle Obama. There it is on the screen. That was just unveiled in the last 10 or 15 minutes. This is a very big day at the National Portrait Gallery as these things go. This is the only place outside the White House where you can find a complete collection of official portraits of every president, every first lady. Today, the Obama's portraits are being unveiled. We have now seen, and you're looking at it right there again, the official portrait of Michelle Obama. That is the artist Amy Sherald, who is now speaking about that. We are expecting to see and hear as well from Barack Obama, the former president. His portrait yet to be unveiled. We're expecting that in the next few minutes. We will obviously be showing you that when it happens. And again, we are expecting to hear from him as well. Let me bring my panel in here as we continue to monitor the events there. This is an interesting day. I have to say, I've never seen one of these before, but anybody who's been to any of those Smithsonian museums, the National Portrait Gallery, whatever, you're watching something be created and be unveiled right now that's going to stand there for history now.
Yeah, certainly an historical moment. And the thought process I thought was really interesting, and what goes into commissioning this kind of painting, and the interview process she was talking about, and the way in which she wanted the public perception of her to be portrayed, I thought was really telling.
Yeah, and it's notable. I mean, these are the first African-American artists behind presidential and first lady portraits at the National Portrait Gallery, so that adds an extra historic aspect to this.
Yeah, both of these artists, and you could hear the Michelle Obama, the former first lady, talking about it there, were interviewed by the first couple when they were still in the White House. This is a lengthy process, obviously, but each subject there, the president, the former president, first lady, wanted to be comfortable with the artist that was chosen. The artist, by the way, who drew the picture, the portrait of Barack Obama. Her name is Kahinda Wiley. I imagine we will be seeing and hearing from her as well. Interesting, too, this is one of those moments when you see a former president emerge in public view. From time to time, that'll happen. Obviously, the conversation always then leads to the politics of the moment, the contrast between the former occupant of the Oval Office and the current occupant. And interesting to see the Obamas emerge today. Obviously, we talking at the start of the show about the latest scandal here in the White House, the handling of former staff secretary Rob Porter. And now you see, almost on cue, the former president emerges.
And there's particular interest in this former president because we're heading into the midterms, right? And there's a lot of question about how the president is going to be present and active on the campaign trail. He's already been very active in the redistricting fight. That's going to be very important to Democrats moving forward. And so whenever the president kind of reemerges on the stage, I think a lot of people pay attention because there is a lot of intrigue about what his involvement is going to be, especially among Democrats who are still, really searching for kind of a leader of their party to really gin up the base. Donald Trump, in a lot of ways, has been that for them, which has been really interesting. Trump, energizing the Democratic base in opposition. And so how this former president can utilize that, especially given all the criticism of the way in which the party hemorrhaged seats during his tenure across the board, is really interesting.
It's interesting, too, Josh, because I can imagine a lot of Democrats out there would love to have Barack Obama on the campaign trail for them this fall. Then there is the question, though, of the former president and what is the appropriate balance to strike there.
Well, it's been a long time since we've had a former president who was really in a good position to involve himself heavily in politics. I mean, George W. Bush left office very unpopular. Bill Clinton, while his approval ratings were actually decent at the end of his term, obviously all the scandals around him made him something of a liability for Democrats. He didn't campaign that much for Al Gore in the 2000 race. George H.W. Bush had been defeated for re-election. Ronald Reagan took ill not that long after office. So basically, it's there isn't a lot of recent precedent for what it's like for a relatively young, pretty popular president to leave office while the other party's in control, and how much involvement he could have. Because I think the president is someone who can be a real asset to candidates out there. His numbers are a lot better than President Trump's numbers. But there are, first of all, some questions of norms. Generally, the one president at a time. You generally want to have a little bit of deference to the person who comes after you. Obviously, Donald Trump has shattered a lot of other norms, and so that impulse might not be as strong as if it was a normal Republican president. But also, Barack Obama has, spent 8 years doing a very difficult job. I think has been relishing his semi-retirement a little bit. I don't know that he wants to be a very active politician day to day.
It was George H.W. Bush. He did get to see in that first midterm after he let both of his sons, or one of his sons, take off. So that was George W. Bush in Texas. His other son, Jeb, lost the Florida governor's race. It was interesting, too, when Barack Obama left office, he sort of put that one note out there that, hey, I reserve the right to speak up in more political topics, if essentially saying if Donald Trump crosses a certain line. When that immigration, when the six-country immigration halt was ordered early on in the Trump presidency, you got a statement from former President Obama. It didn't directly go after, talked more about the activists who were sort of involving themselves in that.
Right.
But it's interesting, too, you hear so much about when former presidents, often there's a bond that gets formed between, Barack Obama and George W. Bush, George H.W. Bush and Bill Clinton. No indication that's happened here, though.
Exactly. And it's fascinating because, Donald Trump ran against Barack Obama as much as he ran against Hillary Clinton. He ran against George W. Bush as much as he ran against Hillary Clinton. And so, this is a president who kind of ran against everybody, every part of the establishment, no matter what party. So I don't think we really expected him to then become kind of friendly with these folks. But the question of how Obama can gin up support.
And we're actually, not to interrupt you there, but we are going to interrupt you to show the official unveiling of Barack Obama's portrait. Take a look.
It's going. Y'all get your picture. Well, good morning, everybody. It is wonderful to see all of you. How about that? That's pretty sharp. It is my great honor to be here, and I want to thank Secretary Skorton and Kim for your outstanding leadership at a couple of the crown jewels of American life and your extraordinary stewardship. I want to thank everybody who was here. Michelle and I are so grateful for the friends and family and former staff and current staff who have taken the time to be here and honor us in this way and soak in the extraordinary art that we're seeing here. It means so much to us, and I hope you're aware of that. We miss you guys. And we miss you guys, and we miss the way those who worked with us on this incredible journey carried yourselves and worked so hard to make this country a better place. Amy, I want to thank you for so spectacularly capturing the grace and beauty and intelligence and charm and hotness of the woman that I love. Special shout out to my man Joe Biden. An even more special shout out to my mother-in-law, who in addition to providing the hotness genes, also has been such an extraordinary rock and foundation stone for our family, and we are so grateful to her. We love her so much. Like Michelle, I have never had a portrait done of myself. I mean, the Hope poster by Shep was cool, but I didn't sit for it. Nobody in my family tree, as far as I can tell, had a portrait done. I do have my high school yearbook picture, which is no great shakes. And so when I heard that this was part of the tradition, I didn't quite know what to do. Michelle and I were somewhat confused. We were lucky to have some extraordinary friends and people with exquisite taste, Bill Ullman, Thelma Golden, and Michael Smith, who gave us the assist and helped us to consider a whole range of artists, and we had an immediate connection with the two artists that are sitting here today. I think it's fair to say that Kehinde and I bonded, maybe not in the same way, this whole sister girl, you know, thing. I mean, we shook hands, we were, we had a nice conversation. He and I make different sartorial decisions. But what we did find was that we had certain things in common. Both of us had American mothers who raised us. with extraordinary love and support. Both of us had African fathers who had been absent from our lives, and in some ways our journeys involved searching for them and figuring out what that meant. I ended up writing about that journey and channeling it into the work that I did because I cannot paint. I'm sure that Kehende's journey reflected some of those feelings in his art. But what I was always struck by whenever I saw his portraits was the degree to which they challenged our conventional views of power and privilege, and the way that he would take extraordinary care and precision and vision in recognizing the beauty and the grace and the dignity of people who are so often invisible in our lives, and put them on a grand stage, on a grand scale, and force us to look and see them in ways that so often they were not. The people that Michelle referred to, people in our families, people who helped to build this country, people who helped to build this capital, people who to this day are making sure that this place is clean at night and serving food and taking out the garbage and doing all the other stuff that makes this country work, so often out of sight and out of mind. And Kehinde lifted them up and gave them a platform and said they belonged at the center of American life. And that was something that moved me deeply because, in my small way, that's part of what I believe politics should be about, is not simply celebrating the high and the mighty and expecting that the country unfolds from the top down, but rather that it comes from the bottom up. Families all across America who are working hard and doing their best and passing on the wisdom and resilience and stories to their children in the hopes that their lives will be a little bit better. And so I was extraordinarily excited about working with Kehinde, and let's face it, Kehinde, relative to Amy, was working at a disadvantage because his subject was less becoming, not as fly. And I want to say that it was, although those Michelle always used to joke, I am not somebody who's a great subject. I don't like posing. I get impatient. I look at my watch. I think this must be done. One of those pictures must have worked. Why is this taking so long? So it's pretty torturous trying to just take a picture of me, much less paint a portrait. I will say that working with Kehinde was a great joy, and he and his team made it easy. Kehinde, in the tradition of a lot of great artists, actually cared to hear how I thought about it before doing exactly what he intended to do. I mean, there were a number of issues that we were trying to negotiate. I tried to negotiate less gray hair. And Kehende's artistic integrity would not allow him to do what I asked. I tried to negotiate smaller ears. Struck out on that as well. Maybe the one area where there were some concessions was, as I said before, Kehende's art often takes ordinary people and elevates them, lifts them up, and puts them in these fairly elaborate settings. And so his initial impulse maybe in the work was to also elevate me and put me in these settings with partridges and scepters and thrones and chiffon-robes and mounting me on horses. And I had to explain that I've got enough political problems without you making me look like Napoleon. We've got to bring it down just a touch. And that's what he did. But it's hard to obviously judge something that is a portrait of you. But what I can say unequivocally is that I am in awe of Kehende's gifts and what he and Amy have given to this country and to the world, and we are both very grateful to have been the subject of their attention for this brief moment. So, Mr. Kehinde Wiley.
All right, and that is the scene again at the National Portrait Gallery down in there at one of the Smithsonian museums in Washington. Former President Barack Obama, you just heard from there, taking the podium right now. His name is Kehinde Wiley. Former President Barack Obama, you saw that unveiled just a few minutes ago. That portrait, along with the one of former First Lady Michelle Obama that was unveiled a little bit earlier this hour, both of those portraits will now hang at the National Portrait Gallery there in Washington, D.C. That is the only collection of every official presidential portrait that exists outside of the White House. So that is playing out right there. And as we continue to keep an eye on it, I'll bring my panel back in here. Well, Caitlin, we just heard from the former president. What do you think?
Right. This is not a political moment for the president, talking about the way in which he went about selecting this portrait. And it is a historical moment, as we were talking about before. And it's kind of interesting to see his view in terms of choosing this. I was a little bit surprised by the unveiling.
First of all, I think it's a really cool portrait. There was that one moment when he said, "We miss you," and the crowd reacted in a clear way that they miss him too. So I think that was, the hint there that if he were to be more involved politically, there is certainly a large adoring fan base that would be glad to receive that. Yeah,
almost seemed like he knew what the reaction was going to be when he put that one out there. Well, again, that was a historic moment you just watched there in Washington. Those portraits now, they will be there for a long time to come at the National Portrait Gallery. Josh and Caitlin, stay with us. Congress, we're going to get back to the news now. Congress is going back to the drawing board on that contentious issue of immigration. There is still no agreement in sight. What the White House is offering in exchange for cash for its border wall. That's next.
Land Rover, above and beyond.
Mike and I went on our honeymoon to Maui, and it was our first big trip together. It was amazing. We were like, let's move here. So we bought a timeshare there, and we went all the time for the next 2 years straight. In 2015, we were expecting our firstborn child, and we were really excited about it. It became a lot of work just to get out of the house, let alone to Maui.
I mean, I
tried everything to get out of our timeshare, but I just couldn't make any progress. And then finally, one of your friends actually told us about Timeshare Exit Team, and they were great.
They were amazing. So now we can just relax at home as a family or go on other vacations and not have to worry about money spent on a timeshare.
Time changes everything. If your timeshare no longer fits your life, call the team that can talk to you about options for your timeshare. Call Timeshare Exit Team today or go to timeshareexitteam.com.
Look, you can refinance and pull cash out of your house with absolutely no closing costs. Why are you paying high interest rates for a car loan, credit card, or anything else you can think of? Your house is your bank. Make the cash call at 855-890-CASH.
Hi, I'm Joan London. Today's senior living communities have never been better. With amazing amenities like movie theaters, exercise rooms and swimming pools, public cafes, bars and bistros, even pet care services. And there's never been an easier way to get great advice. A Place for Mom is a free service that pairs you with a local advisor to help you sort through your options and find the perfect place. A Place for Mom. You know your family, we know senior living. Together we'll make the right choice.
Hi, I'm Bob Harper, and I recently had a heart attack. It changed my life, but I'm a survivor. After my heart attack, my doctor prescribed Brilinta. It's for people who have been hospitalized for a heart attack.
Brilinta is taken with a low-dose aspirin, no more than 100 milligrams, as it affects how well Brilinta works. Brilinta helps keep platelets from sticking together and forming a clot. In a clinical study, Brilinta worked better than Plavix.
Brilinta reduced the chance of having another heart attack or dying from one.
Don't stop taking Brilinta without talking to your doctor, since stopping it too soon increases your risk of clots in your stent, heart attack, stroke, and even death. Brilinta may cause bruising or bleeding more easily, or serious, sometimes fatal bleeding. Don't take Brilinta if you have bleeding, like stomach ulcers, a history of bleeding in the brain, or severe liver problems. Slow heart rhythm has been reported. Tell your doctor about bleeding, new or unexpected shortness of breath, any planned surgery, and all medicines you take.
If you recently had a heart attack, ask your doctor if Brilinta is right for you. My heart is worth Brilinta.
If you can't afford your medication, AstraZeneca may be able to help.
Maybe a lot of people have forgotten the value of a hard day's work, but we see it every day.
Enjoyed for 125 years by those who work hard. Maxwell House, good to the last drop.
When news breaks,
they don't accept the claim to Jerusalem.
Our trusted NBC News journalists will guide you through it. So wherever the story goes,
how is this White House going to answer this question tomorrow?
You'll be right there with it.
Later today, the Senate will do something that is becoming very rare these days. The chamber is going to begin an open-ended debate on immigration. It's a process that could go on for a while to come because as of this morning, there is no real deal that's in sight. The White House is offering a path to citizenship for the Dreamers in exchange for a down payment on a border wall and significant changes to family-based migration. Senate Republicans are going to introduce a bill today that is based on that framework. But Democrats, they say that that deal is a non-starter. So is there a middle ground that can be found here? Joining us now is Alan Gomez, immigration reporter for USA Today. And Alan, let's put this in sort of a broader perspective here, because when we had the government shutdown a couple weeks ago, this was the deal that Senate Democrats said they got out of Mitch McConnell, was the idea that there'd be this open-ended debate on immigration, on the status of the Dreamers. It wouldn't just be, you can't have this amendment, you can't have that amendment. Everything theoretically here is on the table. Do you see a potential way that that could produce a deal?
I think it could, because, yeah, basically now if you get 60 votes on an amendment, it's in the bill, and then if you get 60 votes to pass it, it passes. And the outlines of the proposals in the Senate, they're pretty far apart, but there's some wiggle room there, and it looks like there might be an opportunity to find some resolution, to find a compromise there. But the trouble is going to come over in the House. We saw Nancy Pelosi with that 8-hour epic marathon of a talkathon last week, and all she was trying to get was the same assurance from House Speaker Paul Ryan to have a similar process over there. But the problem is, will there be enough Republicans in the House that will go on board with whatever comes out of the Senate? And that's going to be the difficult part.
Well, so it's sort of anticipating that, then, to see if is there a way here to balance these things. If Democrats say the bottom line here is the legal status for the Dreamers, and you have a White House position that says we're willing to go there, and in exchange the price is the border wall, moving away from what they call chain migration to this skills-based program, ending the visa lottery, where could Democrats give on that? Is there any give in there?
I mean, I think they are giving. They're agreeing to limit legal immigration. They're agreeing to eliminate the diversity visa, and there's been pretty widespread agreement that they're going to have to give a lot of money to that border wall. I think that where we're going to run into a wall is that more conservative side of the House. House Speaker Paul Ryan has kind of painted himself into a corner because he says on the one hand he's not going to put up a bill that does not have White House support, but he also won't put up a bill that doesn't have a majority support in the House. And already that Freedom Caucus has flatly rejected what the White House put out. They want more on the enforcement side. They want more interior enforcement on immigration. They want more of a crackdown on sanctuary cities. They want their entire wish list of crackdowns on illegal immigration. And so how Paul Ryan takes that Senate bill and still satisfies his conservative House base, I don't know how he reaches that.
Well, and what you're describing there is basically what played out 5 years ago, and that broader issue of comprehensive immigration reform got through the Senate, died in the House. We'll see 5 years later when it comes to the narrow issue of Dreamers, if anything is different. Alan Gomez from USA Today, thanks for that. And Josh Barrow, Caitlin Huey-Burns, thanks to both of you for being with us and enjoying some of the portrait unveiling earlier this hour. And we're going to be right back with today. Well, we already saw the big portrait. We got the big picture, though, coming up after this.
It's time now for your business of the week. LA-based $1 Million Baby designs cribs for some of the biggest celebrities. Find out how this couple moved from China to the U.S. in the wake of the Tiananmen Square massacre and founded this multi-million-dollar family business. For more, watch Your Business Weekend mornings at 7:30 on MSNBC.
Sponsored by American Express Open, helping you get business done.
So that's the idea.
What do you think?
I don't like it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
In business, there are a lot of ways to say no.
Thank you so much.
So we're doing it.
Yeah. Start saying yes to your company's best ideas. We help all types of businesses with money, tools, and know-how to get business done. American Express Open.
If you're like thousands of veterans who own a home, you may be thinking about refinancing to get money for your family. But you may not be thinking about a valuable VA benefit veterans like us have earned. The right to apply for a VA home loan for up to 100% of your home's value. Not 80% like many other loans. That's an important difference because that can mean a lot more money for you and your family. Money for retirement, unexpected medical bills, home improvements, or just to put in the bank. The new Day 100 VA loan lets you refinance your mortgages, consolidate your credit card debt, get cash, and lower your payments an average of $640 a month. And New Day will even pay for your appraisal. Take advantage of the VA home loan benefit many vets don't even know about. Call New Day USA right now. Because no one works harder to help veterans get the financial security we deserve.
Go to newdayusa.com or call 1-844-348-1586.
Remember, we were amateur players.
They were the best team in the world.
We were about to pull off the greatest upset in American sports history. But we were more than American. I never realized we were from all over. Italian, Middle Eastern, Jewish, Turkey, Iran. That's what makes America what it is. We all came together as one. That's what made us champions.
I'm all about my bed.
This mattress is dangerously comfortable.
When I get in, I literally say, ah.
America loves the Lisa mattress. We have more 5-star customer reviews than any other mattress of its kind.
This bed hugs my body.
I'm now a morning person.
Hello, bed of my dreams.
Discover how Lisa's innovative design provides an extraordinary sleep experience. Then place your order. We'll ship your Lisa mattress right to your door so you can enjoy your risk-free trial at home.
I love my Lisa.
Today is gonna be great.
Sleep on it for up to 100 nights and love it, or you'll get a full refund. Returns are free and easy. Order now and get $125 off, plus a free pillow worth $75 and free shipping too. Go to buylisa.com today.
You need this bed.
Well, this is where we normally show you something called the big picture, but I think you already saw the big picture this hour. Two of them, in fact, the official portraits of Barack Obama and Michelle Obama. Those were just unveiled on our air a few minutes ago, so we will call that today's big picture. And that is going to do it for us this hour. Thank you for watching here on MSNBC Live. And right now, more news with my colleagues, Ali Velshi and Stephanie Ruhle.
Thank you, Steve. Good to see you. Good morning, everyone. I'm Ali Velshi.
I think we could use a portrait. And I'm Stephanie Ruhle. It is Monday, February 12th. Let's get started.
New fallout and controversy over the resignations of two key White House staffers amid spousal abuse allegations.
First sparking outrage by appearing to side with Porter over his accusers.
No, he says he's innocent. And I think you have to remember that.
The White House offering this explanation.
I think the president is shaped by a lot of false accusations against him in the past.
The president, for his part, like he's repeatedly done before, is sympathizing not with the women who have come forward, but the men who were accused.
President Trump tweeting people's lives are being shattered and destroyed by a mere allegation. Some are true and some are false.
The president has been very clear that all forms of abuse, all forms of battery against women,
but he hasn't
is
said
horrible
that.
And disgusting. Right, but he hasn't. You haven't talked to him today.
I think we need further explanation.
I don't know who knew what when at this point.
Well, let me pause you there. Why?
Well, Chuck,
why come on here and not know? If we don't know the TikTok, then how can you defend any of this yet?
I think that talk about the chief's departure is much ado about nothing.
He has absolute confidence in General Kelly.
If, in fact, that is the case, that is the exact opposite of everything I've heard from people inside the White House and also several people very close to President Trump.
For the president or the chief of staff to give that person the benefit of the doubt, it is probably a very normal and human reaction.
A breakdown in the most basic process of vetting people for the most sensitive jobs in our government.
The president will unveil his vision for his long-promised infrastructure plan today.
An injection of funding for new investments and money to help speed up repairs of roads and airports.
But the $1 trillion proposal is likely a non-starter, even within the president's own party.
The only problem is there's no money in it.
The states are very skeptical as well. How are they going to come up with this money? It's putting a lot of the burden onto the states.
You need to put some real federal dollars behind infrastructure.
That's going to get us nowhere near the kind of money that we need for the big capital investments.
Trump's official budget is like the one today in some parallel universe that is going to happen in no relation to reality.
Trump said 40 years is a long time. He's run 8 races, and this has never come up. He totally denies it.
You have to listen to him also. To what he said about Rob Porter. Trump defended Bill O'Reilly after the New York Times report that he settled sexual harassment claims with 5 women. Trump says, quote, I don't think Bill did anything wrong. I think he's a person I know well. He is a good person.
May I interrupt for one moment? And the president would have no way of having first-hand knowledge of what Bill O'Reilly did with those women. So already it was beyond reach for the president